You okay?
I got the wind knocked out of me. Need a few seconds, that's all.
As you might know, Zack Snyder's Justice League is finally hitting theaters 3 years after its streaming debut. There are some big upsides to keeping Zack Snyder's DC Universe alive on Netflix, and one of the most exciting possibilities is a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League. So let's dive into what we know about it. Here's the scoop. 3 years after its streaming release, Zack Snyder's Justice League is finally hitting theaters. Originally, Zack Snyder was set to direct the 2017 Justice League for the DCEU, but due to a personal tragedy, he had to step away from the project. Unfortunately, his vision was overshadowed by major reshoots led by Joss Whedon, which didn't help the film stand out as one of the DCEU's top movies. After a fan-led campaign brought Zack Snyder's Justice League to Max in 2021, it's now getting a theatrical release. Snyder hinted at this on Vero, teasing a future date announcement. Earlier this year, he held the Full Circle event, screening his Snyderverse trilogy, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, to raise money for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in honor of his daughter Autumn. Now, fans will get to experience Zack Snyder's Justice League on the big screen before James Gunn's new DC Universe kicks off with next year's Superman film. Now that Zack Snyder's Justice League is set for a theatrical release, the big question is what it means for the future. Unfortunately, the DCEU isn't making a comeback. Despite fan efforts to get the Snyderverse sold to Netflix and Snyder's openness to continuing his DC plans, it's not happening. With James Gunn and Peter Safran steering the ship as DC Studios co-CEOs, the new DC Universe will be replacing the old DCEU. The new DC Universe kicks off in 2024 with the animated Creature Commando series, followed by David Corenswit's Superman movie in July 2025. Keeping the DCEU around while the new DC Universe gets off the ground would just lead to confusion and muddy the waters with old controversies. So it's unlikely that Zack Snyder's Justice League will get a broad theatrical release or even a worldwide one. However, there's still a chance it might get a limited run in a few US theaters. Snyder hinted at a future release date announcement and advised fans to stay tuned. If you're eager to be among the first to catch Zack Snyder's Justice League on the big screen, keep an eye on Snyder's Vero account for the release date details. There are some solid reasons to keep Zack Snyder's DC Universe, often called the Snyderverse, going on Netflix, picking up where Zack Snyder's Justice League left off. Just like the fan campaign that led to the release of Snyder's Cut, there's now a push to get Netflix to take on the Snyderverse and let Snyder continue his vision there. Snyder has even responded to this campaign, which has given fans some hope it might happen. With James Gunn and Peter Safran now at the helm of the DC Cinematic Universe, Snyder's plans for the DCEU have been scrapped. Yet Snyder had a compelling vision for the DCEU that got derailed when he couldn't finish Justice League as originally intended, and due to mixed responses to some of the DCEU films, given Snyder's strong vision and impressive casting, the Snyderverse seems like a perfect fit for Netflix to pick up. One major difference between Marvel and DC is their tone. DC often dives into darker and more mature themes. Snyder's Justice League nailed this tone, unlike some other DCEU movies. While James Gunn is a great director, his lighter, more colorful style might not fit as well with the Snyderverse's darker vibe. Continuing the Snyderverse on Netflix would keep that unique aesthetic intact, something that was disrupted by Joss Whedon's changes to Justice League. Furthermore, keeping Henry Cavill's Superman would be a huge plus. Cavill's portrayal of Superman has been widely celebrated, with many fans considering him one of the best actors to take on the iconic role. His performance brings emotional depth, an impressive physique, and a strong resemblance to the comic book version of the Man of Steel. Cavill's Superman is more nuanced and flawed than many previous interpretations, showing significant growth and development throughout the franchise. His imposing presence and acting chops also make him effective in portraying both the heroic and darker sides of Superman. retaining Cavill as Superman would not only be a great nod to the fans who have praised his take on the character, but also a smart move for continuing the Snyderverse's compelling narrative. Darkseid could finally get the development he deserves with Snyder's original DCEU plan if Netflix decides to continue the Justice League story. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, Darkseid only made a brief appearance, with Snyder's ambitious plans for the character being cut short when Joss Whedon took over. Snyder envisioned Darkseid as a central antagonist spanning across 2 additional Justice League movies, aiming to create a villain as formidable and epic as Thanos from the MCU. Darkseid's role was significantly reduced in Whedon's cut and only partially restored in Snyder's version. Given Darkseid's prominence in DC Comics, his cinematic portrayal has yet to match the depth and complexity he deserves. A continuation of the Snyderverse on Netflix could fully realize Snyder's vision and deliver a richer and more compelling Darkseid storyline. Furthermore, Netflix could bring us one of the most gripping moments from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Remember that dramatic final scene where Batman had a nightmarish vision of a future where Darkseid is won and Earth is a desolate wasteland ruled by a corrupted Superman? This scene hinted at the potential storylines for future Justice League sequels and showcased Snyder's grand vision for the franchise. Snyder, with his knack for darker tones, and Henry Cavill, who's shown he can play an evil Superman convincingly, are perfect to bring this storyline to life. This tantalizing glimpse of what could be is a major reason why continuing the Snyderverse on Netflix would be so exciting. One of the toughest parts of rebooting a superhero franchise is retelling the origin stories. We've seen countless Batman origin tales, and audiences aren't exactly excited for another round. This constant rehashing is contributing to superhero fatigue, a growing issue in the genre. By continuing the Spider-Verse on Netflix, we could avoid this problem. Instead of starting from scratch and reintroducing well-known characters, the focus could shift to new stories and adventures. Fans are already familiar with these characters from previous movies and shows, so redoing their origins would feel redundant and less appealing. And who knows, we might finally see Ben Affleck get his own Batman solo movie. Since his debut in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, Affleck's Batman has been widely praised. He's been celebrated for his intense, brooding portrayal and his ability to balance both Batman and Bruce Wayne in a way that stays true to the comics. Despite this, a solo Batman movie for Affleck has been in the works for years, but was ultimately canceled by Warner Bros. Studios. The film was supposed to delve deeper into his character while fitting into Snyder's broader narrative. Keeping the Snyderverse alive on Netflix could be a perfect chance for Affleck to finally get that standalone Batman film he deserves. One of the biggest reasons to continue the Snyderverse on Netflix is the streamer's track record of superhero shows. Netflix successfully handled Marvel's Defenders saga, which included multiple series and was so well received that several actors are now part of future MCU projects. Netflix is an ideal platform for long-form superhero storytelling, which is exactly what Snyder's DCEU needs. The Snyderverse has struggled with inconsistent tones and differing views on its direction. Adopting a more subtle and gritty approach, similar to what Netflix did with The Defenders, would align perfectly with Snyder's vision and give the characters the depth they deserve. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. What do you think about the potential for Zack Snyder's Justice League to continue on Netflix? Share your thoughts and any other ideas you'd like us to cover in the comments.